It's your main man coming back from the gym. I want to get a quick video in here before I went to bed and let you guys know that the 2.5 year campaign, Dungeons and Dragons, Planescape, and Forgotten Realms, Within the Ring of Fire, Ravenloft, the back rooms, Maul, Hell, all these sort of things. I've completed that after 2.5 years in Flan, the battle over the Pool of Radiance. Tyrion Thraxus possessing the Bronze Dragon, battled on Griffin Wing, the scion of Hyperion, the big man, brother, and battling with a lance over the Pool of Radiance in this great climactic game. Now, in that game, we have my son's playing a Knoll. The game itself has to do with devils. Devils were the main focus monster. Now, additionally, the NPC, the big NPC, was the top follower for the Cavalier. Had Cavalier's got an insane amount of followers. Her name was Violet. She's straight out of Fae, teenage girl in this module. I don't want to talk about the module I ran because I just ran Savage Worlds, this edition of Savage Worlds, Horror Companion, the previous editions, Realm of Cthulhu's, Tropicana, and there's a Mafia book, Crime Bosses, something like that. Those books are the main ones I'm taking inspiration from. I have a lot of Savage Worlds stuff. First time I've ever run Savage Worlds, last Saturday, and that was after the 2 Saturdays before the conclusion of a 2.5 year Advanced Dungeons and Dragons AD&D, mostly second edition with first edition implications as well into it. After that one finished, very very successfully finished, and this is what I'm going to talk about today. A one sheet called Brimstone Messiah. You can see this artwork, very nice artwork. I think it may be sludge art though, because it looks like it fits from looking at it to the name, but from reading this, I don't know that this is necessarily the piece that anyone would have commissioned. It's a cool piece, so I can see you using it here. This is out of the Savage Sign 01. There's also an 02. I have both of them. This one, this is a one sheet. So in the game went about 8 hours. Probably 4.5 to 5 hours of it were the material that I'd come up with, and I wanted to use to dovetail off the game I'd run because of what I mentioned. This one sheet starts on page 129, has so many of those same elements. It is about a devil infernal cult. That's what we were using. It has a hyena. My son was playing a knoll. And it has the really the primary NPC's name in that game was Violet because the players said this meant to be, well, here you go, here's your follower, boom boom. But the players kept coming and coming and wanting to do stuff and getting involved with her and sort of having this father figure, uncle figure, big brother sort of vibes to her. Um, and I don't run a game which creepy like that, so that's just it was a very wholesome sort of situation. And in this game, this girl that ends up being rescued is named Violet Barker. So that was very strange. The fact that it had three of the essential elements: a hyena to a knoll, a devil cult to literally they were with a family that were a cultist of Moloch who had done all these like major deals with Moloch. Not to belabor the other game, but this reflection. And if I had come up with this stuff as myself as a game master, it would look cheesy. But the fact that I had found this one page, I was like, well, this is just serendipitous. I'm going to bring this in, run this, and this will be fun for the players when I can literally pick up and show them. No, no, I didn't put a hyena in here. That's what they have in this deal. My game, Savage Worlds game, 1987, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The players are a one percenter biker gang who are loosely affiliated with the pagans at this point, and they are embroiled into this pushed world of darkness, a Cthulhu game which they are just coming in as complete normal people, complete normal experiences. Nothing strange has happened to them. Their life is just a normal person's life. I know one percent are biker gang. They are, as I pitch to them, victimizers that are probably going to be victimized. They aren't the helpless, hapless investigators, the nerds, and the wannabe journalists and so forth that you're going to typically see in a Lovecraftian style game. There's something different. I'm a gigantic fan of H.P. Lovecraft. He's my favorite writer. I have read all of his stuff and most of it a whole bunch of times. So my knowledge of Cthulhu is, and to say Cthulhu, um, Lovecraftian mythos is very, very, very high. So bringing a lot of those things in and adding details and adding these various plots and various uh, portions of the mythos, and then bringing my own stuff in as well. It's been very fun. Like I said, I love Cthulhu, and it's not something as a player I've gotten to play a ton. I have played a little bit over the years, a little bit here and there, but getting to run this and getting to run Savage Worlds for the first time is very very interesting to me. So I wanted to run this. So I'm going to review this with now that it's been 5.5 minutes and you're sitting here hearing me babble. If you had never seen my videos before, that's what you're going to get. Also, go over to Drive Through RPG, pick up Within the Ring of Fire, 5 books. Great dark fantasy RPG. You can pick that up right now. Add to your RPG collection. I certainly have added it to mine, baby. Uh, and so, as a RPG writer, designer, as one of the oldest RPG YouTubers in every way, that is someone who's a game master for 37 years. I was very impressed with this. So this gets a very sturdy and enthusiastic thumbs up. The way they bring you into this module, I have nothing to do with this. I'll read you guys the box text, but um, I didn't use this in the game because it brings the players, just generic players, in as if they are former members of this cult, the Knight family cult. That's not what my players were at all. They are 1% biker gang members, and they were brought into a very different way. So what I had is one of the a contact to not belabor with explaining it. Contacted one of the players, Steve the Moon. What's up, Moon? Had this contact and come around. One of the biker gang members, their tail gunner, Mr. Happy, uh, talks to them and says, "Hey, I saw, your guy come around here. We do appreciate the connect. That let us get meth into him. That let us get into this cult. They're buying from us. But he looked really beat up. The cult leader been beating on him, and that's sort of the cue to get him to go over there and see what's going on with this person that's almost family to him." And then they get another additional kick in the ass from the vice president, Great White of the club, who is face claimed by Gary King of Slayer, like 5'6", benching 400 pounds, tattooed up. And he's yelling at him about, "Give me my $75. They owe me money. You get that money. Tell them there's going to be no more credit for them. They're not paying me." And he's emphatically pushing this on the player characters who are just non-ranked members of the embassy. And the players are like, "Yeah, okay, okay, sure." So they make their way over there with enough um, push, to make them want to get into this. So the book really didn't have a whole lot in it for this Savage Worlds game overall. It's nice. Most of them have something written right at the beginning of these one pages, and some of these that are, I guess, mini plot point campaigns. So you sort of identify what it is. A lot of these in this book are uh, like traveler type games, or they're for superheroes, or they're a period piece, or they might be a D&D esque thing, and none of that is at all helpful to me. However, this was modern horror, and again, it had those parallels to what I'd done in the game previously, so dovetailing those together was very nice. I think if I had come up with that stuff, it would have come off as fairly cheesy, but the fact that it's written and etched in stone came off really interesting, and it was kind of fun to the players. The fact that they have a devil cult, and the last game, in Forgotten Realms, Planescape was based around devils. Those are the main monsters, and the fact you have my son's playing a Knoll, and you have a hyena in this as one of the one of the things they fight. So that's another thing. We had a female character NPC who was she was like the main follower from the Cavalier, uh, whose name was Violet. And in this, you have a teenage girl who's kidnapped named Violet uh, Barker, which is, I mean, how utterly bizarre is it to have those three pieces? I mean, those are primary things: a player, Noel, hyena, uh, the family they were involved with, the Silverstone family, cult of um, with Moloch. There's this devil cult. We got a devil cult right here, and well, and you have this this grimoire, and then you have a teenage girl named Violet. So it was it just checked off all of these boxes and was just wow. I definitely want to put this in because the game ran about 8 hours, and this took maybe three of them, maybe just over 3 hours. So it's quite nice. So giving you guys a layout right here. This is page 129 of the book. It just kind of gives you a little, not even, I don't know if I'd even call it a synopsis, but um, tells you a little bit about it, and it gave me enough to not quickly discard it. Some of the stuff I just discard. I don't. A lot of things that just wouldn't have made any sense for this game, so I'm not looking at that. We start off here with Mission of Mercy. We have the black uh, text box here. You have to forgive me, it's a little dark here. Let's see if I can try to read this, though. Engines scream as you speed down the city streets in your 1971 Cuda and a battered Ford Econoline van. Destination Gordon Street, the last house on the left. That old crumbling house where Grimes and the Knight family dwell. Until a week ago, you followed the path your savior showed you. But then Grimes kidnapped a man and his daughter for sacrifice. Father Knight and his lieutenant, Ravnia, went too far. Your grip on the steering wheel or shotgun barrel tightens. Grimes' power is terrifying and can't be ignored. Only you can stop him and save the girl. So that's their bringing point. So you're members of this cult, which is perfectly fine to do it that way. And in a longer sort of game, that really might not work. And it's certainly again easy to bring in. And I just gave you a completely different hook. That's just a hook they're providing. Never feel shackled by this sort of hooks. Um, and this, the group's divided between these two vehicles. In my game, the group rolls up on their Indian motorcycles and proceeds to start getting in this. I pulled up a picture of like a dilapidated house with tall grass, and then you start going through this horror of describing the night house, and it gives you a breakdown. It says in here it has a map, which may have been an exclusion because there is not one in here. That's really the only flaw I could find. If they'd had a floor layout map, that would have probably been extremely helpful. That being said, it definitely for me it didn't throw me off any. I just had them go through room to room and show them the disgustingness of these people. And again, my characters, these are normal people. Yes, they're outlaw bikers. Yes, they've done some very bad things, but they're still normal people in a normal, sane world, and they begin to brush up just barely against the supernatural. And this is the first brush of supernatural that they have, and this is going first game, first time running Savage Worlds, the first time for the players. They really loved it. A lot of rave reviews from the players. Um, so we start off with a porch, and it's swarming with flies and has rotting pumpkins. So I'm describing all that, and I'm just adding it. I'm talking about the German cockroaches and even spilling out onto the porch, and the large palmetto bugs we're gonna have in Florida, and really going through and describing. And then I get inside of the house as we just start to really elucidate the conditions of the squalor. This is a horrendous place. So I'm going through. We're talking about house flies. We're talking about filth flies. We're talking about flesh flies, and describing in detail what this sort of flies look like. Um, Talking about the different type of roaches that we're seeing, and I'm adding these details in, but they give you a good jump off point for that by talking about the flies, the rotting pumpkins, the sweet stench of it, and then they have a lot of red spray paint is using a lot of things. So they have an X, red spray paint X on the door as you're going in through the porch. Then you get to the front hall. They talk about it's musty, the bubbling wallpaper, 40-year furnishings that are 40 years out of date. So this is really old stuff. It's a really messed up place. And you can make a notice roll then to hear a growl from the hyena. And if you make it you hear the animal growl if you get a raise on it, but if a normal roll, you will hear the conversation from some of these cult members that are in there. They don't like rush out and attack you because it's designed for them to actually think, "Oh, you're just one of us coming back here. Hey guys, how you doing, Joe and Bob?" Um, from the front hall, you enter the parlor. In here, it gives you two cultists plus one per hero. They're only have three players, so that's five cultists that are in this room. But you come right in there and you see two uh, additional men are rolling around. I just give them names and kind of quick descriptions, and really pull up pictures or anything for them. But they're running around. I'm having them like describing them. They're choking each other. They're putting thumbs in the eye. They're kicking each other, squatting nuts. And the other people are sitting there just watching and barely even paying attention. Really going into the fact that these people are depraved drug addicts. They're cultists. They're the sort of degenerate human filth that H.P. Lovecraft would certainly want to describe someone like that. Just going to I just went ahead and went to him, Lovecraftian style, uh, because that really has a place. The degeneracy of humanity is really a key element of Lovecraft. It's not just and you see some monsters. No, it's this degradation. It's the human monster. It's this uh, degenerate aspect that really comes across well. And this is not a Lovecraftian story, but it is a horror story, and it does have a lot of degeneracy, and it does have otherworldly elements. So from there we go to the sitting room. It's a several cultist lounge here, chatting and babbling. They're zoned out, and they start like rubbing on and petting on the coming up, and these are hard ass bikers. Like, what the fuck y'all doing? And like letting them go over on these guys, right? Because they can whoop the shit out of these guys. We only had this is for 4 players. I only had 3, so I knocked down how tough. I made a quick change of making the cultist significantly, maybe not significantly, but slightly easier to overall to defeat. And many of them were defeated after they're triggered into action, but at first they're not. The first real problem. Um, the sitting room, they get a clue. Then we go into the dining room. Uh, you have it describes as 4 grimy, bedraggled cultists are hard at work around a dining room table. A man severed head sits upright on a plastic tray, and he's talking about how they're decorating it like it's a cake, and just going into these demented details. 2 men and 2 women, and and then I added other details, right? Taking off from that, add more details, add more nuance. So I have one with like one of those little party that. And one is like a kid's birthday hat on. So I'm describing how like it barely fits on her head, and they're not trying to stop them. They have no problem at all with this. I describe, they don't tell you where the stairs are. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to put the stairs in the dining room. I don't know. It it lines up to let me get them to be able to see what everything looks like, and they clearly want to go up the stairs. So doesn't tell me where it is. That's where I put them from a um, house construction standpoint. That might not make the best sense, but your players are probably going to want to go up the stairs, and you want them to see into the kitchen because that's going to open up to the back porch, and that's where that's where the first bit of money is. So they go into the kitchen, and as the kitchen, it's piles of boxes of pizza, of Chinese takeout, of all sorts of just disgusting stuff, and the flies are in there. The place is withering with maggots. There's 4 skewered rats in there. I guess they're trying to make rat kebabs. So there's a lot of just disgusting things, and this rancid smell. And when they go over there, they'll have to make a fear save versus nausea, or begin to become nauseated. None of them investigated into triggering that. But then there's a screen door porch, and well, I had it open with a screen door and just like piles of garbage. So I'm luring them out there because the big thing happens out of the porch. The first big thing. When they get out there, there is a headless body. It's the body of the man, Violet's father. His body is laying there headless. They've already seen the head, which was horrifying to him. I had them make a fear check against that using the rules for fear, but I gave them a +2 bonus here. That doesn't give them a bonus, but I said, okay, these guys. 2 of them have military backgrounds, and they are hardcore guys that have done bad things. They're bikers. They've done some things. So I said, well, let me go ahead and give them a bonus here. So I gave him that. But on this, the other part I didn't. And my son, who is playing Mars, and his face name is Ronnie James Dio, walks out on the back porch. And he's a short guy. He's only 5'4". So he's describing his character. He's got kind of a short man complex, and he is Italian. As regrettably, my son's Italian himself. So, um, he walks out there and he's just looking around and he sees the body and like with no head. He's like, oh, this is something. But he's not like completely shook by that. But this is like okay, and he's seeing all these bags of trash and the flies and everything around here, the tall grass in the back, and he's kind of looking around, and just then that's what, yeah, and I come over there and I grab his leg, like Roy, kind of like do like shark him, like Marco Polo, just grab him and give him a right in front of the table, under the table, like, "Arr!" And he's like, oh, and then, I start going to the description of the thing getting up, this headless zombie, and then the players they start coming and they start dealing with it, but they're starting to get convinced that they have been when they were being touched that they're hit with something, that they are having hallucinations. These druggies have fucking hit them with something. This isn't real. You can't have a fucking corpse walking around. They're seeing something. They're tripping, and they know that, right? So that's what they think. But my son's not so sure because he's encountered this thing, and it's fucking horrifying. But David's character, who is Dallas, blast through the screen door, and I'm describing, the screen mesh, which is old, and then it's on these old rusty hinges, and what's that little piece, the fucking like spring piece. I was gonna come to right and dump the video. Anyway, I hear that, like it's like opening and like bust through the door because the shotgun's gonna right through a fucking screen door, and it blasts the body and just sends it into chunks and blasting all over my son's face with the gore from this headless zombie, and just the utter horror of that. That of course also was another fear save. And my son actually took the edge. He only bought one edge on his character, but it's the edge he gives him. I think it's a +2 bonus to fear saves, and he was able to pass his fear save. As I think Steve didn't have to go. I think Steve missed it because David was in front of him, but David also was completely freaking out as well. But he starts to go the other way. Ryan's like, "Oh my god, this is like some insane thing here," and David's like, "No, no, we've been dosed," and he started coming up with a deal to add that in for himself, which is very good on Ranger's part. I quite like that Ranger. Uh, so after they do that, we go to the second floor. Again, I put the stairs in the dining room. Maybe not the best place, but it allowed me to set the thing up to get to the good scenes, and it worked very well. So that might be where you want to place that as well, or if you run this. And again, my players role play a lot, and they did it in probably 3 hours, maybe just over. So depending on your group, if they're just running through this, you could run through this fairly quickly, I think. Um, the final fight would take a little bit of time. You have on the second floor the nursery. So you go in this room, and this is a really good one. It seemed to really creep them out. You have the bassinet there, and it looks like a baby, maybe a dead baby in there, but it's a baby doll, and it's been spray painted red, and it's tied up with clothesline wire and in rags. And they're looking at it like, what the fuck? And Lindsay down there like grabbing at it, like, but there's a coral snake in there. So I guess this guy had exotic animal uh, or something. I don't know how the fuck he got a coral snake and a hyena, but it doesn't go into that. So that's what I decided. The guy is just some kind of freak out in Florida, with probably knows Carol Baskin or some shit like that. And he's going in and reaching it, and he almost gets bitten, but he ends up like, they end up killing the coral snake. But again, more like a jump scare. It's more, oh, that's a lot. Then from there you go into they call it chamber one, but it's just a bedroom, I guess. And it basically has like a dirty match. I'm gonna go into description, like there's skeet on it, there's shit on it, there's piss on it, like it's all fucked up and old and stinks. And I threw a couple other things in there, like, okay, there's some shirts just inside of the closet because I wanted to set up for because chamber two you have Ravenna. She fucking bust out of the closet like a fucking serial killer, and she has demonic enhancement powers. So she's really strong and really tough, and has even some regeneration and fucking. She got this butcher knife that does a D4+1, and she rushes out and fucking just stabs the first character, and they're on a balcony. So she tries to throw him over. He makes the athletics roll and doesn't go over the balcony, but just scares him, and she has the first strike edge. It's just a few other edges that would help her. So she basically just gets to rock him once with him basically not even be able to do anything in the situation. And then cause some of her other edges, she's able to get away. Uh, and she rushes into the last of the three bedrooms. And there is, at that point, and they have stats outlined for her. She's right here. She's a wild card. There's wild cards and extras. And Grimes Knight, his formerly known as Milton Grimes, but he becomes Grimes Knight, and he is infected with this. for this devil. He has the nil codex, and I'm not going to go too much into the details there because I don't want my players to know all these sort of things. But it's this devilly cult. He's got a magic book, a grimoire, and I'm like, no, there wasn't even Halicon. No, it's not. It's just a normal book in English. He doesn't speak any other languages, so to have accessed it, I'm only guessing it's in English. It wasn't delineated otherwise. It's also called Codex of Nil. That's English. So, but the guy has magic spells. He did not draw well. I didn't use my bennies to draw him another initiative card. I should have, because they fucked him up before he ever got to do anything. The guy has one, two, three. Well, he has three special abilities and a weakness, and on top of that, he's got spells. He's got all kinds of stuff. He got obliterated. They just nuked the living fuck out of him. The entire night, they got on top of me on initiative all night long with the cards. Lovecraft and his gods were very kind to the players. They got on top of me. We're throwing cards fair and square. They beat me. So, and I use those bennies quite wisely, but I didn't use it there, and I should have, in retrospect, made sure he got to go before at least some of the players. Well, he didn't get to go at all, which kind of sucked because he was cool and I didn't get to show off that coolness to the players. I do love to see my players win, but you want to let them at least see the danger, see the bad guys, that sort of thing. And he was the one that required the most prepping, so he could have just been an extra. He's like, cackling, and he yells boisterously to summon the rest of the cult up here. And then I start describing, and I give them, they don't really just delineate that here, but I give them a few rounds to get up there. They hear them because I describe them as drugged out. They're fucking all off the place. Like I said, okay, it's gonna take them a little bit of time to get up here. Plus, we describe, this is upstairs and down a hallway, but the players, um, and it gives you another. It only has two pieces of box text, but it gives you another one. This one's small. It goes, "Welcome home, children. I'm afraid you'll have to pay for your foolishness with your souls." Ha ha! So that's the box text it gives you. Basic, generic, but it's fine for a bad guy. I could see, of course, he's calling them children because these are supposed to be part of his cult. But I could see, this deranged, sociopathic narcissist calling someone children, whatever. Not a problem. Nothing really need to change. Talks about how his voice shakes the rafters, and he has these infernal powers. He's got magic and he's got some extra special abilities, which is great about Savage Worlds. You can just throw things special abilities, whatever you want them to have, and now they have. It's not designed to be like, say, a 3.5 D&D. We gotta carefully, okay, is this level so he gets this and this, and it's like, nope, don't do that at all. And very clearly in the rules in multiple places, do not do that. Make them quick, make them fun, and try to spend your time on making personality, which I love, which is great, which is one of the things I really do vibe with to the Savage Worlds game. Now, they basically just fight the two of these people there, and there's a hyena on a wall, and then chained to the wall is Violet. Now, eventually, David's character, who was the one who had Violet before, and he doesn't know that's the girl's name, as an as his follower, says, "Okay, well, how Hollywood are we making the game, or how brutally real are we making?" I said, "Well, I mean, how cool is what you're trying to do?" That's she's like, "Well, what if I took my shotgun and blasted this chain?" I was like, "Is there a chance I could work?" I said, "We got to make a roll, but yeah, I definitely think that could work. So we'll make opposed rolls." And he said, "Okay, okay." So we did that, and he blasted the chain. And I talk about how he's basically broken a lock, and it's designed in cuffed and manacled, and just comes through. You can hear the sound of steel on steel as the chains hit the ground in this filthy room. And I keep describing how much everything stinks, how filthy it is, how disgusting it is, how degenerate the people are. And that, I think, is a real key to milking this module. The players loved it, getting what you can out of it. Describe the degeneracy, describe the filth, describe the flies, and add in roaches, add in other types of vermin, and how filthy and hideous the place is. And when you engage, the way people smell, maybe hearing things, and the fucked up wallpaper, like really fucked up, the old decrepit chairs and couches, and just get into that these are disgusting, really really disgusting, irredeemable people, because in the end, You're supposed to be normal people. I'm like, well, I guess we're just going to have to kill these people. That's the vibe that you want to give them. It's not D&D, so there should be a bit of a oomph to kill people, right? But when you see something that's that level of degeneracy in a horror story, then that is really kind of the thing to do. These are irredeemable individuals, is the way you may want to come off. Of course, you could try certainly many other sorts of ways, right? You could do something. They also say they only no, they save her. They save the other lead character to this as well. And eventually they went back and Molotov cocktailed the place. They went right to a gas station, basically created some Molotov cocktails, went back and fucking put the place on fire. I described that these people are out of it and now their leader's been killed. The highness dead, Ravnia is dead. So these people are moaning and wailing and having weird religious nonsense, ecstatic imbecility of the absolute finest order in all ways. Understand that. And then they come and they start firebombing the house. And I described the house as like out in the middle of nowhere, right? It's just on the boonies, not quite to the suburbs in Fort Lauderdale, because it has to be, right? Because no one is going. That's another thing. Put the house away from everything. Put it in the boonies. Put it in a weird, dilapidated area. This is essentially supposed to be a crack house. This is not something that's going to be right beside other people because there's a lot of cultists in here, and eventually having a bunch of neighbors around, we kind of stretch credulity a bit. I think that it's probably best to just kind of have it away from anything else, so that, and you can have other things, fairly around, right? But keep it down. As I said, the last house on the left, um, and that's some movie with that name. Of course, we can all think of Bad Street USA by the Freebirds, and we live on the last house on the left, which is immediately what sprung to my mind is the Michael P.S. Hayes rendition of that. Overall, great module. Again, your group probably my group is very fucking slow. They move slow. They role play, they examine, and they move slow. So you may be under 3 hours of game time with this, so keep that in mind. You may want to take some of the cultists, and kind of flesh them out. Give at least one of them a bit more of a face, more of a voice, more of a reason. Particularly if you're coming in with they know them for whatever reason. You may want to go with them wholesale, redeeming the cult and bringing them out, or maybe half of them or whatever, um, after Grimes is vanquished. My players got really lucky with card draw to go over the mechanics. Like I said, I made the normal cultist a little bit easier. I didn't see any reason that they would necessarily be tough. They had them at D6 fight. They had them at, I knocked that down, that D6 fight. I knocked that down to a D4, which lowered their parry as well. So they had a toughness 5, parry 4. That made them pretty easy to hit and pretty hard to really be able to do much. They were using gang up bonus as well, so don't forget gang up bonus to get in there and give them a little bit of oomph at the end. Describe the master bedroom, and it's on the corner from where it's described, so it's going to have two windows in it on this side and this side. And one of the players' his signature weapon, he's got like this big chain he swings with both hands. We made up a weapon for him, and very much one man gang style. Who isn't a game? Very much Bruiser Brody style. Um, and in so doing that, he has taken the penalties because their parry is like a 4, so he's like attacking like three of them at a time, two of them at a time. So he's hitting some of them, and the players end up jumping out the window at the end, uh, and they're hitting the ground from the second story, making them make athletics rolls with a penalty. They're coming down, um, and they get the girl out of there, and Steve's at the end, and he's got some pretty brutal hindrances, which he wants to be extraordinarily violent, hyper violent. So we're all for that. And he ends up getting the chain and wrapping it around one of their necks, and then he jumps out the window while he has the chain wrapped around his close neck. And it's like yanking him down. I'm describing it as the broken glass. Falling and shattering as he's coming out, stepping on, crunching over broken glass. So you really want to go those details, describing those sort of things. He's falling, it hits the ground, but he's parachuted himself down essentially by having the chain, and eventually I have the guy hit, and it cuts his stomach like this. The glass is still there, and the cult member's like, because he's already been defeated. So these are just additional cinematics to add to the defeat and add to the pain, bruise, and agony put on the man as he's cut into, falls down, and is taken over eventually. But at that point, that definitely broke Kentucky's fall, which was really what that was intended to do. And then the body hits, and he's out in the real tall grass. And I was describing the stink of the house, and yeah, so that's what I got out of it. That's what I got out of Brimstone Messiah. Excellent, very quick, 3 hours or so. I think you guys will really like it. You can certainly grab a few face claims to add for the various people. Um, that certainly may be something. Ravnia is supposed to be a cannibal too, so she's just a sick bitch with infernal powers. She's a lieutenant. You got two wild cards um, to go in, and just a horde of extras. You need to make them a little bit weaker. Knock that fight down from a D6 to a D4. It definitely took some of the oomph out of them. One of my players, or David's character, is very non-combative. He didn't have he had nothing in fight, so his parry was fucked, and they were rocking him. He ended up with 2 wounds. I think he's the only one of them that actually got wounded in the situation. That being because Grimes' knight was taken out very quickly before he could do things. He had a lot of abilities to be problematic, but he was not allowed to be, and that's just fine too. As a game master, never jack your players. If they get it, they get it. It's always cool to be able to show them the thing, show them how the monster fights, show them what it does, show them what's cool about it. But ultimately, if they get it, they get it. It doesn't just, oh, he actually has some extra health too. Don't worry about that. Nah, it's not that way. And in Savage Worlds, you really can't do that anyway, which is all the better. So even without getting to show that all that occult, which is kind of neat because it lingers. Like they got the book, and my son Ryan grabbed the book. And Savage Rolls is a free action. You can ready two objects, and he's like, okay, well, I have an. He wanted to. He had a pistol. He wants to put the pistol away, and he wants to draw his knife, and he wants to grab the book. I said, well, grabbing the book is basically be readying an object. You had to drop something to be able to do this. And he's like, okay, so I'll drop the gun. I got the knife out. I'm gonna stab him, and it really came off good. The players had shotguns, a chain, knives. Um, what did he have? I think he had a 357. So they're coming in there. They're really lighting these guys up. A filthy, degenerate place. I think that this was definitely a Savage Tale worth running. Your group probably really like it. It's super easy to prep. It's inside this book like 3 pages, and the font is not particularly small. This is not Gygaxian. Gary Gygax should have fit this on an index card, and I think you'll like it. And if you've played this, leave me some comments below. Let me know if you played it. Let me know if you like it. Let me know other Savage Worlds one pages. I looked and found some online, but if there's any from what I've told you about it, Savage Worlds, uh, Cthulhu meets Sons of Anarchy, 1987, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. If there's one or two you guys know, feel free to drop that in the comments below. Certainly interested in looking at more of these. I think that's very interesting. I run very long games, so this one, who knows how long this one will go? Quite a bit of time probably. I got a lot of notes and introduced a whole bunch of stuff on the first session to some good receptions. All right, Barbarian Horde.